What's up, guys? It's Adam. If you want to get a pilot to talk, you either ask him about his airplane or why the military has a pilot shortage. Let's talk about the shortage. Alright guys, just to knock out the elephant in the room, yes, the airlines do get paid, or the airlines pay their pilots a lot more. It's a well-known fact, and I don't think the military will ever compensate enough as far as financially as to what the airlines are paying their pilots. With that being said, I don't believe that is the major deciding factor for a lot of pilots that's leaving the Air Force and going into the airlines. Instead, it does help in the decision-making process. It is a factor for sure, but it is not the deciding factor when it comes to making the decision to leave. And let me tell you a little bit more about the Air Force pilot and what it really takes to leave when you hear people say that. So generally speaking, if you're an active duty Air Force pilot like myself, you have a 10-year commitment after you finish pilot training. So what that means is, for example, I graduated from the Air Force Academy back in 2013, graduated from pilot training in 2015, so I already had 2 years in. So my commitment is a 10-year commitment after training, therefore it'll be 2025 before I can get out, and I will have 12 years of service in. For those of you that know military stuff, that's only 8 years away from getting pension and retirement benefits from the military. So when you say people leave the Air Force to go to the airlines, realize that it takes a lot more than just the pay benefit or just one deciding factor, because they're leaving a decent amount on the table when it comes to like retirement security, pension, benefits, healthcare, and whatnot, right? Because at 12 years, you're already over the halfway hump to the lucky number 20 for retirement. So knowing that, yes, like I said, the pay is a major factor, but it's definitely, I would not say it is the only factor for most pilots leaving the Air Force. I would say it's more of a conglomerate of factors, with one other major one being additional duties, whether that be other jobs, taking over the other support functions that the Air Force used to give operational squadrons back in the day, but now they're all consolidated underneath the wing, and not necessarily, back then you used to have like a person from finance within the squadron that you could always go to for DTS problems or travel problems, and now we don't have that. Instead, we have to go to the wing, which takes a little bit more time out of our day, but also they lose a lot of continuity with that piece. And other additional duties, there are guys that wish they could fly all the time like myself, but instead you'll see guys that fly maybe once a week, and all the other days they're still working 10-hour days because of the additional desk duties that they have. Going back to the pay, I know, at least for myself and a lot of other pilots, we would gladly take a pay cut to become technical experts in our airframe and only fly. Wink wink, hint hint, warrant officer program. TDYs and deployments are just, it's time away from your family, and that can take a drain as well. One could argue that for the airlines, you could be gone for just as long, and that may or may not be true depending on what airframe you fly and whatnot and your ops tempo, but may not be true depending on your ops tempo and the airframe that you fly, but with that being said, generally speaking, you're not missing chunks or months out of your family's lives. For example, people might deploy for 6 months out of the year. That's a pretty decent sized chunk, whereas for airlines, yeah, you might be gone for a week or maybe 2 weeks, but it's not like you're missing a huge chunk. There's something to be said about that. Another big thing with officers, especially the more time that you have in the service, so in other words, the closer you get to that 10-year end of your commitment, right, just about that hump, generally speaking, you'll be asked to do more of staff tour gigs, and that literally takes you out of the cockpit, for a year or two while going through a staff tour gig. Generally speaking, it may or may not be in nice places. You could be doing like a 365 to Kuwait. And once again, you're out of the cockpit, and a lot of us, we just want to fly. So that mixed with the additional duties, mixed with the TDYs and deployments and missing that time from family, along with the pay, and now you kind of just put the pay on top as like a little cherry on top. Like, yeah, you'll make more money in the long term. I think those are your biggest reasons, the quality of life aspect, as to why you'll see a lot of Air Force pilots say, no, you know what, yeah, I know I only have 8 years until I get a full retirement, all the way, up until I die, and free health care for me and for my family. They bypass all of that to go to the airlines, and I believe those are probably your major reasons. So with all that, what do I plan to do? So for me, I would like to get to the 20-year mark and get that retirement. I think ideally that's kind of where I see myself, is hitting that 20. With that being said, definitely want to fly for my entire career and be active in a cockpit. So that doesn't really sit too well with being an officer, and at some point having to do a staff tour or a 365 somewhere. And that those decisions could be swayed one way or another, especially when that time comes. So that's it. Tell me what you think about the pilot shortage. Do you think it factors that affect it that I didn't mention?